Well, I did it. I really threw my rent money at a Switch 2. Just kidding, my brother pays my rent. Just kidding, I leech off my parents. Just kidding. Hey there, pal. I want to tell you all about my Switch 2 launch day experience, and then my thoughts on the Switch 2's physical aspects, followed by what I think of the software and digital side of things. So if only one of those is of interest, you should be able to easily skip to it on the progress bar or with the timestamps in the description. I also gotta apologize about the video being vertical for a bit. I did the whole vlogger thing and recorded my experience for you, and I can't say I really like doing that. And somehow for my live experience, I ended up recording in mostly vertical, but the rest of the video is gonna be in widescreen and this part won't be too long. I'm actually walking to the store here, and there's my sitting in line chair. Dang, it was a gorgeous evening that day. So I share my car with my brother, and I arranged for him to pick me up, and then we'd grab some food together after I got my grubby little hands on Nintendo's next sin against gaming. Otherwise, I'd just drive myself, but this was more fun for me. Get my steps in, go for walkies, all that nonsense. And by nonsense, I mean the bare minimum exercise anyone should be doing to not feel like garbage. Anyway, when I got there, the line was looking stupid.
Oh shoot.
I exclaimed. Guess how early I got there? 1 hour and 15 minutes early. And I really thought I did something here, as the store closed earlier at about 6 p.m. and the launch on the West Coast was for 9 p.m. So why did I think people wouldn't already be lining up at closing? Of course they would be. So I unfolded and sat down in my dumb little chair, feeling defeated by fans more fanly than I. As I contemplated my situation, I realized if I was more willing to spend more time waiting in the lineup before opening, perhaps my waiting after opening would be shorter. Idiot! I screamed at myself internally in a medium-sized fit of regret, not realizing that my future total wait time combined was actually fairly optimal and wouldn't matter in the end. I didn't even bring a friend along with me, or even my Switch 1 to play in line like many others did. So what did I do instead? Well, obviously Super Mario Run. I haven't played this since it came out. Why did I have it downloaded at this point? It's not that fun. To break up the monotony, my brother called, telling me about our new options for fiber internet at our condo building. Riveting stuff. I then figured out I could record my face while I recorded my screen's gameplay, so enjoy that, I guess. After beating a few levels, my coping mechanisms only became more apparent as I switched to Pokemon Pocket TCG. The OST is really incredible mixing-wise, so go give it a listen if you like electronic music done well. My intense gaming session was interrupted by the staff handing out tickets to everyone that didn't pre-order a console, so they would know when to start turning folks away. I had pre-ordered, so I didn't get one, but they did give me something else that I will show you later. I actually ended up talking with the two guys behind me for the rest of the wait and forgot to record more footage until after it got dark out. Here's what the line looked like inside when we got close. A little closer, and finally I was let in. And in case you haven't been to Gamestop in a while, it's much more of a merchandise shop for nerdy things these days. There's still games, but they take up a minority of the store compared to some of the gooner atrocities sold there now. But I did send this pic to my autistic friend and asked him which one he wanted. And after I had my merchandise, I didn't record this part because I didn't feel comfortable recording at the cashier. I finally had what I came for and bid adieu to my local GameStop. My chariot awaiting me, I began to question myself on the situation. Who's going to give a crap about my experience? And I was also feeling things I felt I needed to share aloud. For example,
I feel like I'm shooting an Eddie Burback video.
I'm gonna leave that on for another year before I wash the car. After a customary show of appreciation,
Thanks for getting me, brother.
we went off for a late night burger pickup. And after getting back home and chowing down to the sounds of some other YouTube video guy talking about the Switch 2, I went to bed. I had work in the morning and it was already super late. That's a bad excuse, you might be saying, and to that I'll say, I am Unk. I am in my 30s, clinically depressed and anxious, aided by the best treatment I can get. So I go to bed on time occasionally for my dang health. I wish I remembered to film a little bit of my actual job, but for work I design, supply, and install custom decals, or decal, as all you correct types say it. I do this on vehicles mostly. Actually, let me explain. The decal pronunciation is a Pacific Northwest thing, and you're gonna be hard-pressed to find somebody somewhere else saying it that way. It's just a thing we do, and I'm proud to do it. Proud to be wrong, I don't care. So after getting home and a coffee-endorsed close call, I finally get to open the darn thing. I won't be doing a complete unboxing, there's hundreds of those out there, but I will share the moments that meant something for me. And the Switch 2? Right off the bat, got one with a damaged corner. I hate that. I should have checked and complained for my own sanity. I will do that just because I know how I feel about these things. Crappy. We'll see if I remember to check for that at the next console launch I'm at in 7 years. Remember, use the proper tools. Get the focus, angles, and lighting just right. Yep, got myself a screen protector, and these things that come with it are actually really useful to apply it, but I use them for something else, as you'll see shortly. And so is this, apparently. Just gonna make sure you see my face in the reflection for a second. Ah yes, the new rubbery nibs that it sits on in tabletop mode. Strangely, these remind me of something. Oh, I remember these bits. This is the part of the console that I'm gonna be daydreaming about breaking in a freak accident. And here is how you prep and apply a screen protector. Oh no, rebellious dust speck spotted. Here's where those tabs come in handy for me. You normally use these to do a bit of touch-up dusting, but I actually use it for when the screen protector grabs a speck of dust out of midair, so you pop up a corner, get it up a little bit, and touch the glue to glue, and it grabs the dust speck somehow. Just look at this little bastard. Dishonor on your dust speck family for this shameful behavior. Here I'm explaining about why there's a lukewarm pot of water with green beans in it on the stove. I'm the head chef here at Chateau Spendy, and my brother is the majority shareholder in our endeavor, so I answer to him. We're just going to ignore the air bubble here, I worked it out later. Wow, these magnets sure are snappy. Wow. Oh yeah, I forgot I said that. It passes the semi-aggressive dangle test, a very official test, and the big man yanks on both ends test. Wow. I looked it up, and this is the screen brightness sensor. Get a load of me from the past testing if it's a button. What an absolute idiot I was. Smooth brain, a polished marble, an uncooked chicken breast. And here's the rest. Mario Kart download code. Worst part of the Switch 2's hardware experience, we'll get to that. And even though the Power Brick is the first of Nintendo's with a port on it, and it's a USB-C, they're still hanging on to the old standard of USB-A for the dock. It seemed a little odd to me. Here's those darn stabilizers for you dang mouse and mouse players out there. That's right, you haven't heard that before. This is mouse and mouse. Normally we say mouse and keyboard, but we're playing games with 2 mice now. And now you're questioning yourself as if to say, why didn't I think of that when I saw it the first time? Why did I just accept it with open arms that I'd be playing games with 2 mice? I'm insane. And I agree, you should get that checked out. And here's what they gave me in line. A little piece of cardstock from Nintendo that says, I was here for the Nintendo Switch 2 system launch. I got the last one they had. I actually got the last one they had to hand out, which was a relief, but also got me feeling bad about the rest of those in line behind me. On the back is the main render from Mario Kart World. I really did come at the last possible moment for this piece of paper. It makes me wonder what kind of stuff was passed out in other countries, but I don't want to hurt myself seeing what I missed out on, so I'll just avoid that. So after filming the unboxing, I set it up beside where my Switch 1's dock is set up so I could stream on my PC. And the dang thing wants you to set it up out of the dock, but it also wants you to have it plugged in. These people are insane. Just let me use the dock. I really don't see how using it would make this experience not work. One system transfer, game download, and update later, I was playing Mario Kart World, which I do over on my streaming etc. channel, SpendyXP, and it's the same name over on Twitch. Please subscribe to either of those if you want to hang out with me live. I'll also be posting other video content that won't work on this channel over on SpendyXP. So now I'd like to talk about my experience the past couple weeks with the console, and it's not going to be split into pros and cons per se, but I will be hammering on certain things. And I'll start with my thoughts on the Joy-Con 2 Grip 2? Yeah, it's a lot worse than the first one for the original Switch, and it's all for one simple reason. This dang edge right here. It's like they built Nintendo's health and safety warnings about playing video games too much into a physical feature. So you use the controller too much, and now you're in pain, so you stop playing the game. Problem solved. Actually, problem created. And this has a parallel to the new Joy-Con wrist strap slidey guys, because the old ones made it a little nicer, a little more comfortable to hold your Joy-Cons in each hand, or to even use one horizontally. I know these old Joy-Cons are a bit smaller, but on the newer ones, they're not quite as comfy to hold in each hand or horizontally. If I'm making it sound like a big deal, it's not. They work just fine, but because of these different reasons, I've been using my old Pro Controller. And while I did research the new Pro Controller, I can't be asked to buy it. The price is just too high when we have lots of other options from other companies making high quality controllers, so I'd rather wait for one of them to make a Nintendo Switch 2 duplicate controller, or I'll wait for there to be a special edition and I'll buy that for the huge price, but at least then I'll be happy that it has a cool design on it. But there is one caveat to using your old Pro Controller. I'm thankful that they can still connect to the Switch 2, but they cannot wake it up when it's asleep. And this is one of those predatory business practices that will prey on your need for comfort and not getting off the couch, and so they're banking on you buying a new controller just so you can wake your console. Now, of course, the new Joy-Cons can wake your console, but this is such a small and simple feature. It's just something that's gonna get you docked points as a company for me. I mean, Nintendo's already like deep in the negatives for me, but you know, I still like keeping up with all of these IPs that I grew up with, and these companies take vicious advantage of that. So yep, docking points. It's not without its solutions, this situation. You can keep your Joy-Cons off the console and wake it up, and then switch over to your other controller after you've done that, but it's a pretty awful solution in practice. It just feels terrible to make that switch every time. It's like you're creating another job to do in that way, so you could somehow have the Switch close to you so it's easy to wake up with the power button, like add my PC and streaming setup, but for the majority of my Switch 2's life, it's going to be in the living room, and I'm going to be getting off the couch to push that button. So I'm just going to flip this whole situation on its head in my mind. I'll just get up and turn it on, and I'm going to reap an insignificant health benefit that I wouldn't have before from moving my body. Wahoo! Yippee! I'm actually interested to see if there's any third-party controllers that will get a wake function for the Switch 2 in the future, because on the Switch 1 it wasn't so simple. They couldn't just put it in like on the official controllers, but there was a couple that managed to do it in a different way, and it worked quite well. So I'm done this huge rant. It all came from that silly little grip. It's not terrible to use, but it is bad. Like, it could be better. Anyway, what about the Joy-Cons themselves? Frankly, using them on the console is a nice premium experience in almost every physical way. The joysticks are a little bigger and better, kind of an in-between from the Switch 1 to a regular joystick. The buttons, they actually click nicer somehow, and with those attachments for the Joy-Cons, they feel much more stable in mouse mode than without, so that's going to be really important to use. And there's still the situation with the left side directional buttons, because out of necessity, they have to be separate buttons for when you use it horizontally. Now it's a regular controller with face buttons. But we're without that classic D-pad that Nintendo patented and used all throughout the years. So it's going to work better, these buttons, for some platformers, but they're not optimal for use in retro fighting games with rolling inputs, so this is just something we'll have to wait for a new console to get changed around. There was also third-party Joy-Cons on the Switch that you could buy with a traditional D-pad, so I'm sure this will be the case for the Switch 2 as well. Surprisingly, the screen's colors are excellent when compared to an OLED Switch. The technology for LED screens, like on the Switch 2, it just keeps advancing, and these blacks are even deeper in comparison. I had lent my dad my old OLED Switch now that I have the Switch 2, so I couldn't get my own footage, unfortunately, so we're gonna have to thank James. You should actually go check out his channel. He's a wizard at taking apart retro stuff and fixing it, and he actually has a video tearing down the Switch 2 and showing you what's inside, which is super cool.
There you go.
Also, the stand is as good as it's ever been with a huge range, and it's hella wide. Love that. And there's a USB-C port on top for charging when you're using the stand, which eliminates an issue we had with the original Switch. It's also the port you'll be using for a camera in any setup, which is surprisingly cool because it supports so many cameras You could just pull out an old webcam you have and it's actually probably going to work a little better than a super modern webcam because of that lower resolution. It's not going to be demanding that much of your Switch 2 and do the job just fine. You'll just have to figure out a way to point it in the right direction and you're good. Another somewhat downer is the new SD format that is demanded by the Switch 2 for the faster write speeds. It actually makes sense why it's necessary when you start looking into it, but I'll be using the onboard memory for a while because it's actually not bad at 226 gigs of usable memory. We'll keep an eye on the SD card situation and see later what a best option is for size and price down the road. I'm sure by the time I'm gonna need to buy one that there'll be a slightly better price. And the last thing I'll mention physically is my biogenic screen protector. It actually had a defect. I thought it was a piece of dust underneath there, so I went to get it out and I couldn't. So I pulled the whole thing off and realized it was actually an imperfection in the glass, which is a first for me. Thankfully, there's a warranty. So it's not like it was a massive issue, but it did mess with my experience using a brand new console. So they will happily send you a new one with proof of purchase and a pic of the problem. Moving on to the digital side of things, the Switch 2's menu. It's a disappointment. Yes, everyone will be able to know where to go if they have used a Switch 1 before, and there are some minor connective capabilities with game sharing from the Switch 2 to Switch 1, like we see with the new Donkey Kong Bonanza trailer. But those are not good enough reasons to keep a new console from having its own identity and experience. It's a solid 2 out of 10 for me, and only because it slightly beat the Switch 1 in speed in some areas, and it has new sound effects, which I actually quite enjoy. The reason my score is so low is because this is the first time I've experienced this on a brand new console. The Wii U, it was a failure, but its menu is such a large step away from the Wii. It was truly its own experience, and I can remember my feelings when using it, how it impacted me back then, and when I use it now, I get those similar feelings from using that console, and it's different for every console I use. So the Switch 2 has lost this aspect completely, and it's kind of shameful for a new console to be this way, in my opinion. I found this to be a very odd thing to contend with, especially as there still aren't any customization options besides black and white. What they've actually done visually is round some corners so it looks a little less sharp and then change those sound effects that I do like, but this obviously was a corner that they could cut, funny enough. And this is a business decision for them that can save them some money, and so it feels cheap. The digital side of the experience with this console will suffer, and it's a sad thing to see. For shame, Nintendo. For shame. Do better. Next up for me is the new game card system, which is also on the Switch 1 now. This actually is a fine change with some game sharing advantages. If you're in person with a friend and both have your consoles, you can literally let a friend borrow a digital game cartridge as if it was physical, and you'll get it back in 2 weeks over the internet, or if they send it back early. Hey, Editor Spendy here. I'm just reading and watching a bit about the virtual game card system to get some footage. And apparently you can only do it between your family group, which makes this way, way worse. If you could do it with anybody, that would be fun and nice, but it's only with the 7 other people that are in your family group. That's interesting. I did like the old system though, for nefarious purposes. And with this new system, Nintendo has now fully thwarted a fun little thing I used to do occasionally with friends. Let me explain. So I bought a Switch at launch and I had an OLED version, so I had 2 Nintendo Switches, and the OLED was my main console. I could start a digital copy of a game, let's say Splatoon 3, on my brother's account on my main console, so they knew that I owned it and my brother could play it. Then on my first Switch, I could start that same digital copy of a game with my account. It would just ask me and verify if I owned it. So this way, I could play one digital copy of a game twice at the same time, and I could show my friends a game that they might not own, and then we could experience it together that way, and they might have even ended up buying it afterwards. It was a lot of fun, and I could play certain games online with them and let them test out that experience with me. and it may have ended up with Nintendo making a couple extra bucks. But this is something we can no longer do, and I will miss it. And lastly, when it comes to the software, the only game I got for the Switch 2 is the one that came in the bundle, Mario Kart World. But I'm saving that for its own video because I have a lot to say about it. One more time, I'll mention that I'm streaming Mario Kart World and other games over at SpendyXP here on YouTube and over on Twitch, so I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much if you've already subscribed to me at one of those. That means the world to me. And this is it. You did it. You heard my whole spiel about the launch day lineup until now, and it's earned you a bonus point. It's a combination of a brownie point and a bonus point. I've concocted this so you can get double the value on every point. Keep track of them yourselves. I don't got time for that. And thank you so much to my patron for funding my presence online and my efforts to supply you with some sort of content. And it's also so kind of them to do that. But that's just one way you can support me. A like or a comment is just fine by me. You do you, pal. Bye. Some coins for me right here. You know, I love that you can jump into a block and get coins, but I personally feel like the block is a little bit high in the sky for that. Like, it looks like I'm getting the coins, but I'm not actually punching the block. You know what I mean?
I was here for the Nintendo Switch 2 system launch.